Welcome back, I should say, to Oulton Park. We've got a little bit of sunshine here this morning, which, if you are in or around the vicinity, you'll know is a huge changeover from where we were this morning. This morning's race run in particularly damp conditions. Qualifying was teeming with rain, puddles everywhere, a little bit of a shake-up in terms of the qualifying order in terms of championship positions, but the story of the day so far is that after that warm-up and qualifying session, things started to drive for the race and it all got a little bit better. Plenty of overtaking, including a superb lead change, which we'll catch up on a little bit later on. And championship points-wise, nothing huge has changed over the course of the day so far, but it is the weather that's changed, and we should have a straight run here without anybody worrying about what tyre to go out on, or indeed having to change tyres. That was the story down from the paddock after race number one, particularly for the Richard and Sam Neary Mercedes AMG GT3, which had a jack failure in the week, and they had to manually jack the car up to change the tyres in race number one, so a little bit of a problem for them. Enough wittering from me, because the glamour side of the outfit is Michelle, who's down there in pit lane with all the gossip for us.
Thank you, very kind, Richard, very kind. I'd never get that off Mark Werrell, you know, never, ever. He's, you know, where is he? Off sunning himself somewhere?
I expect so.
I don't know. Anyway, hello, yes, welcome back to a very different looking Oulton Park right now. The weather has changed dramatically. I'm actually squinting, I'm feeling quite warm, the sleeves are rolled up, the sun's out, which is fantastic. So much drier conditions for our second race of Super Saturday and the GT Cup Championship. Here's a reminder though of what it was like earlier, your race one highlights with Richard.
But we are GT Cup racing here, and you can see on the outlap not that much spray, but as they come into life and go into Oulton for the first time, there is a lot of spray for the drivers to deal with, and some of those that are going to be out of position are certainly going to have their work cut out. And the battle for the GTA class, Simon Orange having a look up the inside line, and Chris Hart holds doggedly onto the lead. And, well, really getting stuck in there. Warren Gilbert certainly not being put off by that moment. Clatters the Porsche and also the Armco barrier. Goodness me. Really having to work as the space as best he can around the track. So meanwhile, trying to get clear and looking around the outside line here is that number 9 machine. As they come out of Lodge Corner, there isn't room, and there's a pass for position there, and going through. And this is for GT3 honours. Remember, Phil Keane not. And I said about the line round the outside line on the banking, and he does it. That was like the carousel at the Nürburgring. For the new race leader, Phil Keane goes high and wide on the banking. And there is the checker. It is a win for Phil Keane and Michael Igoe, who take it. And fine style, superb first and second half from both drivers.
Phil Keane, man of the race, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was a good race. Michael drove well, and you know, the guys made the right call on the pit stop to put slicks on. So you know, it was fairly. Sam unfortunately had an air jack failure, so they couldn't change to slicks. So made my life a bit easier.
You pulled a fantastic move within what, 6 minutes left of the race.
Yeah, he was on wet, so you know it makes it quite easy really. So you know he wouldn't have had a lot of grip, and he was struggling. So it was just a case of biding my time and finding a safe place to overtake him.
How did you actually find the track today? Because obviously it was so wet, the weather we've had this morning.
Yeah, it's been miserable this morning, but you know, it hasn't rained for a while, and these cars dry the circuit quite quickly. So there was a dry enough line to make the decision to go to slicks, and you know, actually there was only one corner really that was still wet, so it was the right call.
So how are you feeling about race number 2?
Yeah, I mean, looking forward to it. I think we did all our testing on Friday was in the dry, so hopefully Michael will have a good run and pull a 20-second lead, and then we'll just have to bring it home.
Cars on the front row of the grid. A familiar look with the 88, Richard Neary, who will be starting, as you can see from the outside of the front row. Michael Igo, who Phil Keane was talking about, absolutely no slouch at all. Championship-wise, not a big problem in terms of GT3 for the class leaders, Richard and Sam Neary. Sam's pro sporting driver, incidentally, in the Mercedes-Benz, because Michael and Phil are technically running as guest drivers, so non-scoring of championship points in their Lamborghini. But it's great that we allow the guests in, because it gives a little bit of a benchmark when conditions are changeable, or indeed otherwise, for drivers to gauge themselves up against, say, British GT or other drivers that are coming in. And I've got to say, extremely magnanimous there was Phil Keane about that move, because, OK, we know that the tyres couldn't have been changed on the 88 car, but what a super move nonetheless, really using that banking, and a real credit to both drivers in that move around the Shell Oils Bank corner. Absolutely superb stuff. Just a reminder, if you've not seen the GT Cup Championship before, and we've got a lot of new spectators here who I think have come down and welcomed the opportunity to get some MSV circuit tickets, not just GT Cup, we've got a full programme of motor racing on today. And although some people might have been put off by the rain, a lot of people enjoying the sun coming out now, as you heard Michelle saying, which is great. 6 groups of cars, or 6 categories of cars that will race. GT3 for homologated GT cars running to manufacturer GT3 specs. That's where we're going to see the Neary's Mercedes-Benz AMG car, 3 Lamborghini Huracans, the Nissan Nismo as well of Graham Tilley, shared with the young driver Senan Fielding. Will Tregurtha off racing in Germany. Had some clarification on that, and he's running in the DTM Trophy abroad, and doing rather well in that is Will Tregurtha. So we'll see Will back later on. GTO open specification cars built by low volume, very low volume by manufacturers. And in GTO we're talking here today the Brabham BT62, which got a class win with Paul Bailey and Ross Wiley in race number 1. And the Radical RXC run by Raw Motorsport, Rob Weldon's team, Ben Dimmock and Steve Burgess. GTC, later model year Challenging Cup specification cars, and the sort of thing we're looking out for there, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo cars, the championship leader Jensen Lunn and Warren Gilbert, and also James Simons and Fraser Smart in their Lamborghini. Then into, in terms of the pit stops, Group 2, who will be having their pit stops first, GTB, early year Challenging Cup cars with minimum specification changes, and GTB, really we're looking there, Marcus Mantis, the BMW of Tom Barrow, and a pair of Porsches, Nick Phelps, Richard Marsh and Sam Randon, who are the championship leaders for that group. GTH, homologated cars running to manufacturers GT4 specification, the GTH category, extremely well supported, a plethora of McLarens out there, Aston Martin represented as well, Porsche Cayman, and the Morgan Tilbrook Marcus Clutton Mercedes-Benz as well. And the final group, GTA, lower specification cup. I always hate the word lower because it doesn't really do them any marketing favours, but an extremely competitive group for Challenge and One Make series cars. And this is predominantly the Ginetta G55 at the moment. It's the successful car to have, or has become the successful car to have in the GT Cup Championship. And that group, led by the defending champions Simon Orange and Josh Jackson. It is Simon Orange who runs in the appropriately orange liveried Ginetta G55. However, it was Craig Wilkins in the red and black number 80 Ginetta G55 who took the win in race number 1 this morning, partnered with his pro driver Aaron Scott. So looking forward to seeing those guys resume their battle. The 67 car, incidentally, this morning finishing 15th overall, second in class. The grid for today is based on the times that the sporting drivers posted in the first race. So they have a proper qualifying session at the start of the day where the sporting drivers can change over, but the pro sporting drivers, the ones with a little bit more racing experience, and the professional drivers are not allowed to qualify the car. The qualifying time is set by the sporting drivers, which is what the championship is aimed at. It's fine to have a pro because the pro can get you involved and coach the sporting drivers along, but the championship has always been about getting newcomers in, and they are deemed the sporting drivers, which is a good. A lot of other championships call them amateur drivers, and I think that's disrespectful. And I love the term sporting drivers that the GT Cup Championship, Butte Motorsport, the organisers have put together. We're getting ready for the rolling start. Much better track conditions now. It was a little bit of a lottery this morning with a drying line, but you can see the circuit is dry, and it is Michael Igoe who was the top sporting driver in terms of the lap times from race number 1, so he assumes pole position, and we'll see whether Michael can pull away in this race from Richard Neary. We are again in the 12th race of the 2021 campaign, GT Cup Championship Racing. No pit lane starters this time. Tom Barrow will be starting from the track. Haven't seen Tom on circuit as of yet. Richard Marsh and Sam Random with a huge amount of work to do. Had a chat with Richard in the garages literally about 5 minutes ago, and he was a little bit down on his performance from race 1, as through and past the 247 car, Lucky Kira, goes the number 18 car into second position, and a good start here. Let's hope. We had a few cars that were really struggling with the conditions, depending who you talk to. A lot of drivers getting the most out of it and enjoying it. Some of the young professional drivers saying actually they could do with another downpour. I'm not sure we want that. Testing yesterday was in the dry, and it is much better for the sporting drivers to carry on the testing conditions and, you know, have that continuity, as it were. Great shot here as they come down from Hilltop and into the chicane. We'll go back to that shot a little bit later on. I'll explain what I was going to talk to you about going through that chicane and the fact that it was a relatively recent addition to slow things down. But it is the 88 car, second in race number 1. Richard Neary partnered with his son Sam, and I've very rudely, and sadly on the first lap we've got Alex Stevenson out in the number 6 Ginetta. The 22 car is Rich Mason, and the other car involved there is James Simons, who I don't think got out in race number 1, and it's a very shortened race for him in race 2. So very sadly I don't think we're going to see Fraser Smart. It might mean that we get an early safety car out here. There is the Nissan Godzilla, it is known as. Wonderful to have quite a good catch up with Graham Tilley over the lunch break today, as the 118 car of Ian Duggan and James Townsend. We weren't informed, unfortunately, who's starting that car. It was James Townsend in race number 1. I'm guessing they may well have swapped over, as Michael Igoe now starts to put a little bit of pressure on Richard Neary as they come through that glorious corner at Shell Oils. People who know my commentating here from Oulton Park International will know that I repeatedly, for people who don't know as much as anything else, say that if you stood at the bottom of that, we'll come back to that point in a moment, because Carl Cavers is having problems, very sadly. The Valuga Racing Porsche Cayman Club Sport GT4 car is in pit lane, still got the yellows out. There is a safety car board. I was about to say, one of the beauties of this being quite a long lap, 2.69 miles, is that the officials aren't generally pressured into making a decision about having a safety car. They can leave the machines out on track, allow the marshals a chance to get things away, and of course in lighter cars, Legends cars, Formula Ford, something like that, marshals and rescue crews will be able to clear things up relatively quickly. But in the interest of safety, it is a timed race, so it is eating into the race time for these drivers. A shame that those cars are A, damaged, and B, that the safety car is going to eat in. You can see the detritus over the track, a lot of carbon fibre which is going to puncture the tyres and maybe cause some more problems. Mark Hopton goes through in the McLaren 570, and the safety car will, now that the majority of the field should be past that danger zone, safety car a little way behind, so there might be a little bit of a slightly quicker lappery. Now everybody knows where the damage on circuit is. And once we get everybody bunched up, then the rescue crews and marshals will be able to sprint into work and get things cleared up rather nicely. So the 34 car, Richard Marsh at the controls of the class points leading Porsche. Super race for them in race number 1. Had the GTB pole, qualified 4th. Super performance from Richard Marsh in the qualifying. Remember, as the sporting driver, he was the one that had to set the time. And 4th overall. Dropped back a little bit during the race, and he was rather self-deprecating about that when I spoke to him in the garages. And he and Sam Randon have got some work to do. Could be a good car for our directors to follow over the course of the race as he starts to make up some progress from very much towards the back of the grid. Our leading trio go through. Lucky Kira. So I mentioned in race number 1, Lucky, a very competent pilot, thoroughly enjoys his racing and races pretty much everywhere that he can. Rich Mason's Greystone GT prepared McLaren 570 is very sadly out of the race, and that means that we won't get John Lancaster with a shout. 7 McLarens in this GT Cup field. It is becoming a real draw for race fans to come to the tracks, particularly as things are opening up again now after COVID, to come along and watch this wonderful machinery that we have. Good performance as well at the moment, the 31 car, that's Michael Clark in the white Porsche, and we'll go back to that. There is the clearing up operation. You see the marshals will have to wait for the cars to clear that particular zone. Michael Clark, who's in 4th position here in the white Porsche, super performance in race number 1, and by my reckoning, need to double check this with the GT Cup Championship team, made up 17 positions in race number 1 in very, very difficult weather. It was wet to start with, and then drying line appeared, and from 25th on the grid, made up 17 places. So by my reckoning, was the driver who did the most in terms of overtaking and places gained. Others that did well, the Brabham BT62 of Paul Bailey and Ross Wiley moved up some 14 places. Graham Tilley and Senan Fielding moving up 7. Others, of course, things were a lot closer. GTH pole position men Mo Ritson and Tom Rawlings. I knew I remembered Tom from somewhere. Again, I was having a chat with Mo and Tom in the pits of, and it was mini racing. And it's sometimes very difficult for a commentator. You see a driver in one formula and then they pop up in something completely different like GT. And so apologies, Tom, I didn't remember you from the mini racing. That would have been my chatting point for you. But very quick peddler. He and Mo had a great race in GTH in race number 1 for 2nd position, which they annexed ahead of Ian Campbell and Ollie Webb. Some really good names in GTH, and indeed as there are right the way across the field. And GTH won, by the way, by Balfe Motorsport this morning. Michael Price and Callum McLeod coming up from 9th on the grid, so 3 places gained for that McLaren. Lights still very much on the safety car, so this will be eating into the racing time of Richard Neary. The pit stops, when we get them, we have the countdown for you, so I can tell you that. Now, I made a note somewhere of the times during which the drivers will be able to have the pit stop window open. And at the start of the race, or before the race, I was describing the groups that we have, Group 1 and Group 2. Group 1, GT3, GTO and GTC, will have the 2nd pit stop window, so they will come in with 17 to 13 minutes remaining. But before that, we'll see Group 2, GTB, GTH, GTA groups will come in with 21 minutes to go, and the window will be open for them to come in around about 4 minutes. So they've got a fairly short window to come in. It means that some of the professional drivers will have a shorter drive this time around. Safety car actually going straight on using the old part of the circuit, you can see here, rather than the little twist away to our left as we look at the screen. This is how the circuit was originally, and obviously the interests of safety, the Hislop chicane being put in to slow everybody up and just make things a little bit safer. But it does leave a handy little piece of tarmac for which the marshals have moved the barriers there so that the cars can use it and leave the marshals in perfect safety to clear up the 2 runners that we have sadly lost from the early stages of our second race of the weekend. So quickly have a look at the championship positions for you coming in. The GT3 championship positions headed by Richard and Sam Neary in the Mercedes ABBA racing car, and 244 points coming into the meeting here at Oulton Park today. Only 2 points shy of the overall championship leaders, Jensen Lunn and Warren Gilbert. Jensen and Warren 11th in class. Oh, beg your pardon. They're in. I'm getting my number ones muddled up here in P1s. Number 1, Josh Jackson, 11th in class in race number 1. But Jensen Lunn in the number 9 car, 3rd in class. So we may, again, subject to mathematics, have a new leader in the overall championship. Although they will, of course, be racing in terms of their own groups. Steve Ruston and John Whitehouse going through. John Whitehouse starting his 44 McLaren 570 GT4. And number 90 car, Mike Price, who won GTH last time out, up ahead of Russ Lindsay, starting in the Ginetta G55. Actually, had the pleasure of having a chat. We are down there. That is Tom Rawlings, the McLaren driver, watching Mo Ritson's time being eaten away in the car. Mo, one of the drivers that, again, apologies for banging on about Ginetta Scholarship, but you meet so many, great networking place, and a lot of drivers coming through Ginetta into GT Cup. And as I say, the GTA group, very much the preserve of the Ginetta G55s. Where was I going all that? We were talking about class championship positions and Richard Neary and the fact that we might have an overall new championship leader. I don't think any of the group championship leads changed. Certainly Simon Orange and Josh Jackson in the Group A. Nice wave to the camera there. The Orange Racing powered by JMH car had 216 points, well clear of the class winners in race 1, Craig Wilkins and Aaron Scott. Second win of the season for Wilkins and Scott, having picked up one at Brands Hatch earlier on in the year. So 2 and 4 first and seconds for them, 6 and 2 for Simon Orange. So although the big points were scored by Wilkins and Scott, I don't think that will change. 2, 3, 4 now playing 185. So the leaders come down a little bit. Class B lead, again a decent lead from Richard Marsh and Sam Randon. Nick Phelps in P2, lights out on the safety car, so we're getting ready to go. Just run through the other class positions for you. Jensen Lunn and Warren Gilbert well clear of James Simons and Fraser Smart. James Simons obviously involved in that incident, so that car will stay in the class lead once again. GTH, Josh Jackson racing the McLaren, disappointing for him. Closing up was James Guess in this race as we get ready to go. And GTO, extended championship lead for Paul Bailey and Ross Wiley, initially in the Ferrari at the start of the season, now in the Brabham BT62 as we go racing once again. Richard Neary working that restart pretty well, a pass up into 4th position now, and a good move by Graham Tilley on the inside line of the white Porsche of Michael Clark to move up into 4th position now. Now Richard Neary will want to get his head down. It's going to be fascinating to watch the battle between Phil Keane and Sam Neary if the gap doesn't build up over the course of this. So remember, this is getting very close now. Michael Igoe starting to put a fair bit of pressure on the race leader. So the race, whilst there might be a little bit of strategy, I can tell you that the sporting drivers will want to sort it out for themselves, because there is very much some pride at stake to take the overall win. Flash of the lights from Michael Igoe. Wants Richard Neary to get on with it as he come down from Hilltop into Hislops. Lucky Kira is there in 3rd. Graham Tilley next up. Then it's Michael Clark. Clark is now followed by Jensen Lunn and Warren Gilbert, who are next up. And they are running in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Jensen Lunn starting the car. Tom Barrow there in the 20, making a welcome guest appearance this weekend. Started from pit lane race number 1, and he is just at the moment up ahead of Craig Wilkins. So decent start for him. Now for all the light flashing from Michael Igoe, which I think he was doing in the 18 car, it is not dishevelling Sam Neary at all. Richard Neary, beg your pardon, holding on here. And GT3, remember, will come in with approximately 17 minutes remaining on the clock. So Richard and indeed Michael Igoe with a another 9 minutes or so to crack on. In the meantime, about another 4 minutes before the pit window opens for Group 2, GTB, GTH and the plethora of Ginettas in GTA. So let's have a quick look and see who is where on the timing screen. As well, as soon as I look at the timing screen, Michael Igoe closes right up under the rear wing of the race leader. Richard Neary was getting away in race number 1 in the damp conditions at the start, built up a big lead, but here he's got his mirrors very much full of that Lamborghini Huracan, and let's see whether Michael Igoe can put the pressure on. Again, he comes to the wide line here as they come down into his lops. This might afford him a little bit more momentum up the hill, potentially. So, speed as he comes through his lops, now through Knickerbrook. Not quite close enough to make that move on the climb up Clay Hill towards the double apex right-hander at Druids. And I've got to say, Richard Neary actually coping with pressure very well here at the moment in the Mercedes-Benz. 2 Mercedes racing with us this weekend. We've got the Morgan Tilbrook Marcus Clutton machine running in the GTH group as well. 24 minutes on the clock. So, okay, last time we wanted to look at the timing screens and see who was where in what class. It closed up big time at the front. So let's go and have a quick look down the order. GTC led by Lucky Kira at the moment from Jensen Lunn, 5th position for Jensen Lunn, 2nd in class. GTO led by the Brabham once again of Paul Bailey, very competent Paul Bailey, getting his times down in that Brabham, really learning the car, and absolutely glorious for us to see the Brabham name back in British motorsport. It really is a big thing and a moment of excitement for me seeing that car in the flesh, as it were, for the first time today. Nick Phelps in that 35 car, 2nd in the GTB group standings. GT3 Cup car prepared by Veluga Racing. As we said, Veluga getting a much higher profile now with a good amount of cars in here, very well prepared cars running in the Visit Cayman Islands Porsche Sprint Championship with, appropriately enough, the Porsche Caymans, and also in the Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain with Lewis Plato running in that category, and running strongly last weekend at Brands Hatch, Lewis Plato, which was great to see. John Whitehouse up ahead of Tom Barrow, then the class-winning GTA Ginetta from the first race, actually at the moment running 2nd because it's the 67 of Simon Orange who is leading class a little bit further down the road ahead of this group. So the number 80 car 2nd at the moment in the GTAs, and he will have another couple of minutes before the pit stop is effected. The other thing that the GT Cup Championship do in terms of pit stops is add in, some championships add in success ballast. Why mess around with that when you can simply add some time onto a driver's pit stop? So really, again, great thinking outside the box, not outside the pit box of course, by the GT Cup Championship to add success penalties on. John Harrison takes a spin in the Marcus Mantis. He'll be handing over to Charlotte Gilbert a little bit later on, and the GTB car 3rd in the championship, strewn across the track. Worrying moment for them. Pit window, is it open? Because we saw Simon Orange coming in. Massive wheel spin from John Harrison, trying to get back out on track. He does so safely, which is the key thing that you'll see in the MS UK Blue Book, the rule book, saying that, you know, if you're coming on, you've got to be wary of other cars, because you can't cause, well, you can cause an accident, but you shouldn't. And the Clark, of course, Dave Scott, the team would be down on you like the proverbial ton of bricks if you do cause a problem like that. So Craig Wilkins at the moment is dicing with, now is that Ian Duggan, who's managed to get ahead. The Fox Motorsport car has made up a place and gone up into P2. So the 118 car now up into 2nd place in the GTA category, and Craig Wilkins drops down. Meanwhile, the Nissan in 4th position. The Japanese, incidentally, take a big interest in this car, Graham was telling me. It is one of the older spec Nissans. He loves racing it, and said to me he has to sort of bow to the younger drivers who are coming in. Ian Campbell is in pit lane, and it looks like tyre change going on there. Not looking too happy about that. Ian Had a good race in race number 1. Doesn't look like it's going to be too good here for Ollie Webb, the pro driver, to take over. So the 34, Richard Marsh and Sam Randon car. Let's have a quick look and see where that is on the timing screen. 22nd at the moment, third in GTB. Not too shabby at all for the man who leads the GTB group as the Ginetta run now. Just having a quick look. Is the pit stop window open now? And have we got, yeah, I think we are starting to get the GTAs coming in, because we've got the Oulton Hart car up ahead of the Fox Motorsport machine, then the 77 Mark Hopton Adam Carroll McLaren 570, and you can see pit window very, very well and truly open now. And because of the huge entries we had, I was worried about Craig Wilkins who'd disappeared. Craig Wilkins was already in the pit lane and will hand over to Aaron Scott. So as they came in, leading GTA actually was James Townsend and Ian Duggan for Fox Motorsport. So we're going to see another Fox Motorsport winner, perhaps. Meanwhile, out front, of course, still Richard Neary out front, and the 18 car of Michael Igoe. This has been a fascinating battle between these two. You just feel that Michael, not being overly frustrated, but having a good race here with Richard Neary. And we'll see whether he can find somewhere to go past. This is the run around Shell Oil's corner. Very slight, actually looks more than slight left-hand kink there. Thoroughly recommend a track walk at Oulton Park if you can do it for this point. The 6-foot-high banking that we've got there. I make no apology for saying that, because I'm sure we'll probably get first-time viewer who won't have picked up on what a spectacular corner that is. Through the Britain's chicane, which I think was originally maybe put in as much as anything for superbike racing, but a welcome addition. Again, we see Michael Igoe go wide here. This is maybe again just to sort of show the lights to the 88 car, put a little bit of pressure on. He's getting too close here to use it as momentum going up Clay Hill and into a possible pass. We've only got a couple of minutes before the window is going to open for the Group 1 cars, so this battle may well change in the pit stops, depending on both of these guys. I think are going to have success seconds added in to their times. It might potentially extinguish this battle, but who knows, we may well get another one. Lucky Kira's still in third place and leading GTC. GTO led by the Brabham of Bailey and Wiley. GTH led by Mo Ritson and Tom Rawlings. They're in front, getting back to the front of the class. They were in pole at the start of the meeting. Tom Barrow leading GTB. So we're getting to a good performance from the BMW, and GTA headed by Ian Duggan and James Townsend as they went into pit lane. So that's a summary of the 6 groups as we are now past the halfway stage of this second race of Super Saturday here at Oulton Park. GT Cup Championship, one-day event. Awful lot to get through in one day, to be absolutely honest with you, but some of the pro drivers particularly thoroughly enjoying their 2 pit stop races rather than the sprint races, which have to be done by one of the sporting drivers. From the commentary position here at Old Hall, I can tell you that we've got quite a few of the cars now going out. The leading GTA car of Ian Duggan just heading out as well. There is Sam Neary. I made the comment in race number, which he laughed at when I read it back to him at the lunch break, about when I met him. I think he was 15 years of age, a Ginetta scholarship, now 6'5" with a full beard, which is par for the course with these youngsters when you meet them. Actually, not just Ginetta Junior, you can meet them in karting or Fiesta Junior racing, T-car racing we were talking about with Ollie Webb earlier on, and of course the Saxmax Championship as well, the Junior Saloon Car Championship as it's now known. That's where Mo Ritson, the class leader in GTH, did his junior racing. And Mo, I was thinking, you must be 21 now? No, you're still only 18. Talk about making you feel old. Now we're going to see, yes we are, Richard Neary comes into pit lane, the race leading cars into pit lane. Hopefully we'll see the driver change. Sam Neary is ready to go out. Richard, the father, brings the car to a halt. The son gets in, no sign of the Holy Ghost at the moment, but there is Richard getting out of the car. Sam will get in. They will have to, of course, stay in the pits for a set amount of time, with possibly success time added into that, as we look across at the 44 car, John Whitehouse, handing over to Steve Ruston. Richard and Sam Neary still showing. Such was the lead they built up that they could build the lead up, come into pit lane, maintain the lead on the TSL timing screen. You may well be watching the TSL timing like myself. The number 3 car still out there, John Harrison. Not sure if that car's had the stop yet. GTB is in Group 2, so due to come in anytime soon and hand over to Charlotte Gilbert. Interesting seeing a social media exchange between Charlotte Gilbert and former Marcus racer Shane Bland, who races in National Hot Rods on the short ovals. And Shane was a GT racer back in the day, and Charlotte was, I think, offering for Shane to come and co-drive, and I did give them a bit of encouragement to try and get Shane out for this particular round, as I knew I was going to be here this weekend, but it didn't happen. I think Shane's on a little bit of a holiday at the moment from hot rod racing. So out goes Phil Keane. And look at that, the battle is resuming. That's exactly what we wanted, but Phil Keane's got some work to do now because he's lost a little bit of ground over the race leader. So the chase will be on. We'll get the time for you when they cross the line next time around, if I remember to look at TSL and see. Actually, we've got it on screen anyway, haven't we? The gap was 1.17 seconds, thanks to our production team putting the graphics courtesy of TSL for us to have a look at. So the Mercedes goes through. There is the Lamborghini in P2. Lucky Kira is still in 3rd, and on for another GTC win is Lucky Kira. Ross Wiley takes over, the tall Scot, front runner in Scottish Formula Ford 1600 racing, and making a real good name for himself in GT circles now. Great to see him again this weekend as the race leader comes down from Hilltop. Not under the pressure that Dad was under in the early stages now, so the pit stop turned around well. And Phil Keane, lap times we'll certainly have a look at and see whether Phil can close up and give us something of a grandstand finish with 13 minutes left on the clock for our second race of the weekend. And that's Jensen Lunn handing over to Warren Gilbert. Car, as you saw from the highlights of race 1, getting a little bit clattered on the way. Was, I think, a little bit frustrated, perhaps being out of position at times, trying to get through. Some of the drivers said the racing was a little bit physical from that car. We saw it clattering into a Porsche. I think it was the 34 Porsche. Richard Marsh certainly did have. It might also have been the 31 of Michael Clark, and also rubbing the barrier. Very keen to get through was that car to defend the championship lead for sure. So Gilbert Lunn actually showing in the class lead now over Neary and Neary, and that's going to be courtesy of the timings, I think. Pit in for Gilbert Lunn. Neary over Igo and Keane. Keane sets the fastest lap of the race, pretty much straight out of the box. 1 minute 37.409. Sam Neary with a 1:37.439. Very closely matched, those two. We're looking at Bradley Ellis now, closing down on Tom Barrow. Bradley Ellis, BRDC member, based in Croydon in Surrey. Actually, I think slightly more glamorous than that, Selsdon Vale sort of way. Bottom of Gravel Hill, if you know your area. And oh, that's sad news. The Walton Hart Ginetta G55 that ran so well in race number 1 in the early stages, finished in 4th position in the group in race number 1, is out of the race. The Make Happen Racing is not making it happen at the moment, very, very sadly. So Ian Duggan's come through. Let's have a quick look at the other classes. It's a 45-second lead for Warren Gilbert and Jensen Lunn. Jensen in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo at the moment after the pit stops from Sam Neary. Phil Keane running in 3rd place. It's all changed over now at the top because it is Sam Neary that goes back. The gap is 4 seconds. Sam Neary to Phil Keane with the Lamborghini now in 3rd. Then Senan Fielding in the Nissan Nismo. It was great listening to Graham Tilley telling me about just how nervous that car was in the wet weather this morning, and I think he was not glad to bring it in, but certainly glad to bring the car back home in one piece for this morning's racing. As we watch Tom Rawlings now in the lead car there, up ahead of Tom Canning. Tom standing in for Darren Turner this weekend. Tom, another ex-Ginetta Junior Racing. And here is the Brabham, which is going to go through. That's a pass for 4th position. Ross Wiley passes Lucky Kira. Lucky doesn't have a pro driver with him, so we're seeing Lucky as the top all-round sportsman at the moment, if there was a separate category for that, but pass for 4th position by Ross Wiley. So the Brabham on for perhaps a 3rd group win in its 2nd meeting with us. Remember that pairing running the Ferrari the early part of the season to build a platform for the season-long GTO campaign. And Ross Wiley, this is an absolute joy to watch for me, to see Ross at the wheel of the Brabham. I never thought we'd get to say that the Brabham were back in GT racing, but it's absolutely wonderful to see as Tom Rawlings, taken over from Mo Ritson there, up ahead of Tom Canning. So the two Toms enjoying their race. Graham Tilley, meanwhile, on for an overall podium. The number 4 car could be a 2nd podium of the day. That car driven at the moment by Senan Fielding, who was telling me about the mauling that he had at the first meeting. We were there to watch it with one of the other drivers, a visiting overseas driver, causing £6,000 worth of parts damage to that car, and got 6 points on his licence as well. I won't name and shame for obvious reasons, because it was dealt with by the appropriate parties, but Graham Tilley was saying that when another driver had a coming together with him earlier on in the year, the driver concerned actually came over, apologised to Graham and offered to pay for the damage. So again, that latter story very much part of the camaraderie of GT Cup, and Graham instantly turned that down. He said, well, you never know, it might happen the other way. I hope it doesn't, but could well be the case. There is the Brabham. Now what's the gap? The Brabham is 7 seconds down on the Nissan. So in 9 minutes, the last lap time was a 1:37. Not going to have enough time, only a second a lap quicker at the moment is Ross Wiley to Senan Fielding. Tom Barrow running in 2nd position in GTB. Well, we've got 8 minutes on the clock. Gaglev cars to look at there, with Phil Keane working his way through the traffic. The gap is 2.7, so he's going to get closer for the lead. Let's see whether that Aston Martin Vantage GT4, Bradley Ellis at the wheel now, will let them through. Richard Neary having a quick look on the screen as well. Tom Barrow, the meat in the sandwich at the moment between 1st and 2nd. Right, let's have a look at group leaders for you. So GT3 and overall led by the Neary pairing Mercedes. GTO headed by Ross Wiley at the moment in the Brabham. GTC still led by Lucky Kira, so Lucky dropped a place but still leading his group. It is the GTH McLaren of Josh Jackson who is leading that one, the number 1 car. Then Nick Phelps leading GTB. GTA led by Ian Duggan and James Townsend. So Fox Motorsport looking pretty good at the moment in GTA, and possibly, just looking at the results from the earlier part of the season, could be a maiden win for them. Charlotte Gilbert in the Marcus Mantis now has taken over, and the gap between the two leaders now is 9/10 of a second, so the overall lead battle is very much on, as Charlotte Gilbert 3rd in the championship for GTB, closing down on the number 1 car. Josh Jackson, what a drive he's had. Josh Jackson was 11th in class, so has come through extremely well. Of course, one of the dual sporting driver pairings, as Sam Neary pops another back marker. He'll look in the mirrors, and every time he sees a back marker between himself and Phil Keane, he'll feel a little bit of respite, but it doesn't last very long, because that Darren Turner, Tom Canning machine, Darren Turner, the regular co-driver for James Guess, is clear. Now, we said about the gap, didn't we? I didn't think the gap between the Brabham and the Nissan was going to come down, but come down it has, courtesy of Ross Wiley and Senan Fielding in this older spec GT3 car, about to be passed. Senan cracking driving from him. He knew there was nothing he could do about that. Still 3rd in GT3, is an older GT3 car. Doesn't have the same aerodynamics as the more modern cars, the same gizmos as the modern GT3 cars. And he's pretty much punching above its weight to be on the podium and to be as in touch with the Mercedes and Lamborghini Huracan of Michael Igo and Phil Keane, to be perfectly honest. So past the Steve Ruston now in the Ferrari goes the Brabham. So are we looking at an outright podium here for the Brabham and Ross Wiley? It's been a really good drive. And also to fastest lap. Let me paint the picture for you, fastest laps for Ross Wiley. 134.505. Phil Keane 136.3. Sam Neary 136.9. So that Brabham, which is destined to become a road car at the end of its career, as you probably heard me mention in race number 1, but this is the early days, only its second race meeting for this car. We were looking and talking about the Brabham Formula 1 cars back in the day, and hence the prefix of BT, Brabham Team. I think it probably was the iconic BT44 Formula 1 car, which you might remember had the Martini livery, being reissued, such as the Demand by Tamiya, who made those lovely model kits back in the day. It's coming out this summer, so if you've got 100 quid to spend on a very much loved one, and you want to buy one of those kits, might encourage them to do some more, but they're beautiful things. And very, very sadly, off goes, that will be Sam Randon now. That's the Group Championship leader in the 34 car, was running third in class. I think the group lead is going to be intact championship-wise, but was running third in the group in this race, so just dropping down the order a wee bit. And it sounds like something clicking and clunky on that car, but not going pit bound. So Sam Random will keep that car out there. Sam, a very quick racer as well. Good to see Team Hard Racing in GT Cup. There's something rubbing, isn't there, from the sound of that on the car. But ultimately, we always have a look at what is going on for the overall lead, and that is where we are now, with Sam Neary still there ahead of Phil Keane. Keane, the quicker of the two drivers. They pass Patrick Collins, paired up with another BRSCC Mazda former driver, Russ Lindsay. Those two who cut their teeth. A couple of cars going into pit lane, and that has extinguished. Now, is that a drive-through? It is a drive-through, we're being told, for those two cars, and extinguishes the lead, I'm guessing, for either speeding in the pit lane or track limits. Can't see anything on my timing screen as to what that is for at the moment, but that is going to be frustration for sure for Phil Keane, who comes back out on track. Now, we're going to see the Brabham close enough to make things up, but this is again going to be an outright win here. Get on to back onto odd numbers, I think, for outright wins. The 9th win of the campaign for the 88 car. Pit stop infringement, thank you for pointing that out. I was looking at the wrong screen. A much bigger screen with some data there to see. Which driver it was that did it, whether it was on the way in or on the way out, remains to be seen, but there will be discussions had for sure. Still running in P2. And 3.197 seconds down at the moment. The Brabham still in third position. 2 minutes 27 on the clock. Quick rundown of the group leaders. GT3 and overall headed by Sam Neary. GTO headed by the Brabham of Paul Bailey and Ross Wiley. GTC Lucky Kira. Good job for Lucky. He's in 5th place at the moment, still on for a class win. Nick Phelps leading GTB in the number 35 car for Valuga Racing. And then the number 1 of Josh Jackson, super drive from him in the McLaren, leading GTH from the Guest Canning car, and Mo Ritson and Tom Rawlings down to 3rd in GTH, but still on for a podium. 1:52 left, and still fastest lap with Ross Wiley, 1:34.505. Best sector 1:22.889 seconds. That is pretty much a second clear of anybody else for sector 1. And 45's second and a half better than everybody else in sector 2. Sector 3 not showing on the screen for him. There is the Brabham, which, as I say, a superb addition. And for Paul Bailey and Ross Wiley, a smart move for them in the SB Race Engineering Ferrari initially to come in while that car wasn't quite ready. They had an issue with the engine that was shipped for this car originally. Paul was saying that's a standard thing that can happen, and that they had contingency in place to start the season off in the Ferrari, registered with GTO so that they could, when the Brabham came back out and was ready to use that, and they've obviously maintained that championship lead. Quick look there, Marcus Clutton in the 66 Mercedes-Benz, the second of the Mercedes, that one running in the GTH group. Ian Duggan still leading GTA. No, he isn't, because now we've got the 67 car in front of him, so Simon Orange has nabbed the lead in GTA. Still looks like a podium for the Fox Motorsport pairing at the moment, so those two pretty close. GTA very close between those two. This is where you see that the timing, the extra timing, the success timing for the drivers that have done well in the pit stops can make a difference. And you know, you get to late doors and you see the likes of Simon Orange coming through and challenging for the class leaders they've done there on Ian Duggan and James Townsend. I think it might be James in the car for the second stint. We won't know that for sure. They managed to get the news down to us. So we are at the run out of the clock now, and therefore this is the last lap for Sam Neary, who will put the ABBA Commercials Mercedes back on the top step of the podium. Comes out of the Shell Oils hairpin, accelerates down towards the Britain chicane, clear track behind him. He's not really been troubled apart from Phil Keane. His dad was worried by Michael Igoe in the early stages of the race. There is the championship leading Lamborghini of Warren Gilbert now at the wheel, second position in GTC. GTC led by Lucky Kira still, and Lucky very much clear. We'll close in a little bit championship wise. He will pick up an extra 7 points, Lucky Kira, for winning the class with more than 3 starters or 3 starters or more in the group. Still a little bit of traffic to have to deal with here for Sam Neary, who steers through the Lodge corner for the last time, down through Deer Leap, and we'll watch for the checkered flag. Dan Richard is on the pit wall and delighted. Our congratulations to the ABBA Racing Mercedes AMG winning GT3. Second position will go to Phil Keane. Had a drive through, but closing up right in the last stages, still with that 1:36.3, his best time. Second position overall and in the GT3 group, and third position and a win in GTO for Paul Bailey and Ross Wiley, who will come across the line now in the Brabham BT62. I hope we see more Brabhams on track soon. That would be a marvellous thing. Super stuff from Brabham getting that podium. Sure, an outright win's not going to be that far away. Fourth position, appropriately the number 4, started by Graham Tilley and taken over by Senan Fielding, the pro driver, who will come through to take third place in GT3, fourth position overall. Fifth will be Lucky Kira as Graham Tilley goes across the line. There is the 118 car, I think, still running second position in GTA, and it will be Simon Orange who wins GTA. Simon and Josh Jackson protecting a double points lead in GTH and GTA. Impressive driver pairing. And Team Orange this year getting a little bit of outside assistance from an existing team, but set to be a major force in racing as Lucky Kira comes across the line. That's your winner in GTC, Lucky Kira in the Ferrari 488. Super job for him. And the championship leader, this is 6th position, second place in GTC. Nick Phelps will be following him in the Porsche. Nick in the number 35 car, GTB, is the class leader in GTB as well. So there are the perhaps erstwhile outright championship leaders there in the number 9 car. Warren Gilbert bringing the car home, the Top Cats Racing machine, with 100-point lead over James Simons and Fraser Smart coming into the meeting today. So checkered flag out, everybody now on their slowing down laps. And GT3, if you look at the list of winners over the course of the season, Donington race 1, it was the Nearys that won that. The sprint race won by Michael Igoe at Donington Park on the Saturday. The two Nearys back in control for the remaining 2 races at Donington. We then went for a one-dayer at Brands Hatch Grand Prix. Stuart and Lewis Proctor taking the winning GT3, but the Neary pairing winning the second race, and then bagging all 4, as you heard Michelle say at the start of our broadcast this morning, and grabbing 1 win today, but a win at each of the venues that we've raced at thus far in the GT Cup Championship over the course of the 2021 season. So, race is complete. The car's coming in towards Parc Fermé. Let's go down and join Michelle Livings once again.
Hello, yes, thanks Richard. I'm here down in the pits and our winner has just pulled into the garage. The number 88, Sam Neary, driving at the end. Richard here as well. I suppose we could have a quick chat. While you're there, Richard. Sam's being congratulated at the moment. Well done.
Thank you.
Good end to the weekend.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty hard. Michael pushed me all the way every lap. We had a really good ding-dong. It was good fun.
Yeah, I think it's fun, isn't it, when you've got a little bit of a battle going like that?
Absolutely. And me and Michael race each other quite a lot. So we've got a bit of confidence with each other as well. But he pushed me hard. It was good.
Fantastic. Well, listen, congratulations.
Thank you.
Very well done. I think Sam's gone to cool off for now. Obviously, we know who our race winner is, but let's hear from Richard the complete list. Richard, over to you.
Thanks again, Michelle. Yeah, let's just have a quick look and run you through who took what. The race win going to Richard and Sam Neary, GT3 first and second. Second place going to Michael Ogo and Phil Keane, as you heard. Great battle between the two, particularly in that first stint. Third position and winning GTO was Paul Bailey and Ross Wiley in the Brabham BT62. And then fourth place, third in GT3, was the car of Graham Tilley and Senan Fielding. Lucky Kira was next up, Lucky taking the Ferrari to the GTC win. Then it was the Gilbert and Lunn Lamborghini, which was kind of closed the race coverage off with the championship leading car number 9. They take second position in GTC. Next up was Josh Jackson, sharing over the season with Simon Orange, but having the monopoly today on the McLaren, the defending champions who won the championship last year in the Ginetta, taking 7th position and the win in GTH. Next up, and taking third in GTC, the 31 car, Michael Clark. Another good drive from him in the Veluga Racing machine. And down outside the top 10, the second position in GTA, a little way down then for Ian Duggan and James Townsend in 15th place. It was the number 67 Ginetta, the number they had last year, of Simon Orange, who took the class win in GTA. So the class winners, little recap for you. GT3 and overall, the Neary Mercedes AMG. GTO with Paul Bailey and Ross Wiley. GTC, Lucky Kira. GTB, Nick Phelps in the Porsche GTH. Going to Josh Jackson, although Simon Orange will take some credit for that as well, as a shared car. Similarly, Jackson will take some credit for Simon Orange taking the win in GTA at 14th position overall. So, a little summary there for you of the class winners here. Let's go once again down to Michelle in pit lane.
Richard, thanks so much for all your hard work this weekend. It's been a pleasure working with you again, and thank you for watching. That is it from Oulton Park, and it has been a super Saturday. Now, next time we are rolling into, not Snell, I was about to say Snetterton, to be there. So join us for that next month if you can. And remember, in the meantime, don't forget to keep an eye out on all the social media channels, because there's always lots of things happening there. And there's also a chance to watch previous races back again. So you can find us GT Cup on Instagram and Facebook, and of course on YouTube. Again, thanks so much for joining us. But for now, from Cheshire and Oulton Park, it is goodbye. See you soon.